Hello again people, ELAVI Truth TV, and this episode is a very special episode for me because it's a celebration, examination and maybe a call to action even to do with father's love. Hopefully we can understand the importance of father's love, we can understand, you know, the deeper aspects of a father's love. You know, this man here is my father, and he's not with us anymore. He left this plane of existence. I don't want to say the word die because I think as we go along, you know, in this episode, we'll see why I don't want to say that. And also, he left this plane in the same year that my son came, so they never met each other. But it was important, and you know, it holds some kind of significance that one part of my family, my son, was coming into this world as my father was going out of this world. So it's an important thing for me, this whole cycle of life, this whole father thing. You know, some people say maybe it should be called, you know, parental love. And I might do a video on parental love because I think a mother's love is important. Without exception, it's important. But I think the love of a father and the love of a mother are two different things. And you know, in the first video that I got arrested for, it was called War on Fathers. And there seems to be a devaluing of the love of a father in this system, the destruction of the father in the home and stuff like this. So I want to start this off by going to a guy called Bob Geldof, who famous guy in the past. I think he's still famous now, I don't know. But he had an experience with the family court, and I'm going to use some excerpts from a program that he made. So let's go straight into that.
Battersea Park, Sunday lunchtime. Watch the single men with their children drag themselves through the false hours in a frantic panic of activity. The build-up, the all-week anticipation, and then the excitement of being with them. Time dripping too fast, decaying, every second measured and weighed in the balance of loss, losing, going away and fading. Everything must be crammed into this space. Life in an hour, love in a measured fragment of state-permitted time. Feed the ducks again. MacDad and McDonald's. Where else do you go?
This heartbreaking scenario that he paints of men, you know, in this time where they can only see their children for these few hours. You know, so many men feel this, and so many men are going through this. The fathers are going through this, and these are the lucky ones. I want to really focus as well on some of the things that he said, which I think are so important in terms of a father's love. Listen to what he has to say, and I do apologize for a lot of the footage that I use in this video because a lot of it's out of sync, but please listen. Don't worry about that, you know, just let's listen and take in what's happening. Listen to what he says about the love of a father.
Were my children gone? Those things that were the best of us. Why couldn't I be with them like I had been for all their lives? I went to the law to try and be with my kids 50% of the time. But like most men who go to court under the family law system in our country, I was left feeling criminalized, belittled, worthless, powerless, and irrelevant. I'd entered a world riddled with bias, prejudice, discrimination, and hypocrisy. A world where under the guise of justice, children are stripped of their fathers, fathers of their children. This has to change.
I'm keeping you on your toes. Actually, that bit wasn't about the love of the father, but we got to the point where he spoke about going to the law to have time with his children, just like I did, just like so many fathers have done. Go in believing that you will find justice, but what you find is absolute and utter corruption. And from this perspective, what I'm actually talking about is not necessarily the corruption in its raw form, as I've done so many times, but I'm talking about the corruption that is directed at this thing that I'm talking about now, love, the love of a father. So now let's go and hear what he has to say about the love of a father in terms of the family court.
Going into the court, literally opening the door, a well-meaning clerk passed me by and he tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Good luck, Bob." And I said, "Yeah, thanks, mate." And he said, "Listen, can I give you a bit of advice?" And I said, "Yeah, please." And he said, "Whatever you do, don't say you love your children." I was taken aback. That was the sole defence I had, if defence is the correct word. And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, the court think it's extreme if a man articulates his love for his child."
He was told by a well-meaning person in the court that to say his, or to proclaim his love for his child or his children would be seen by the court as something extreme. Now this is so important because while you're being stripped of your children in the family court, you're being criminalized, you're being alienated, you're also having the indoctrination. They're trying to indoctrinate you with the fact that to even show any love for your children is a wrong thing. And can you see how what's right has been turned on its head? Because right now we have a system where to a large degree mothers are accepted as love for their children should be a thing that is expressed and talked about, but with fathers it's a totally different thing. Now I know, again, some women might get on me and say, "Oh, you know, we've been suffering in the family court too." Yes, there are women who are suffering in the family court. I speak to them daily, and there's some beautiful people who have had to suffer this alienation. I'm not talking about parental alienation here. There's elements that I'm covering, but obviously I'm talking about something to do with fathers and their children. You know, and through this I want to show the differences between the way a father loves his children and in terms of action, and also the fact that in this system, as well as the father being on the attack, masculinity in itself is under the attack, you know. So let's go a little bit deeper into what he has to say in this heart-wrenching episode, and let's hear from some of the fathers as well as we go along.
I had no idea there were so many of us out there destroyed by this system. I'd unknowingly struck a chord with tens of thousands of fathers, grandparents, partners, all of them robbed of their children.
I often drive in the area where I believe she lives, just in case I might see her. But I don't take it any further than that. I'm not even sure I'd recognise her anymore, to be honest.
I'm keeping all her cards and everything else. One day when she comes and sees me and finds me, she will. I'm going to say, yeah, that's what I've done for you.
It was only yesterday I was speaking to somebody online. I responded to their comment because they were saying that they were going to have to put together a folder of things that they would collect for when their child got to 16, and hopefully they'd see their child again. And I responded by telling him that it was late and I was going to go to sleep, and I thought it was disgusting that fathers have to be thinking about collecting effigies and memories in order to show their children that they love them in the future. I told him that I was going to go to sleep and dream about an army of fathers, an army of men who would be driven by their love and show this system that they're not going to let the most precious things be taken away from them. And then I said that I'd wake up in the morning and the dream of seeing warriors would be over. It's so interesting that in a bit of this footage we see, it looks like hundreds, maybe thousands upon thousands of men in the street with banners, and I don't know what year and what years those was. It was long before I was a father, I believe. But what has been lost with us men, with us fathers? What's gone? Why are we not out there? Why are we not making them afraid of the repercussions of what they've done to our children and what they're doing to us as men? Where has that gone? I don't know. But let's go back in.
Every year, what the government calls only 15,000 cases go to the family courts. In just 7% of those cases are men allowed to live with their children. The courts reduce the rest of them to Sunday fathers, dads who can only visit their kids at weekends. And they're the lucky ones. 4 out of 10 fathers lose touch with their children forever. What's going on? Why are we allowing this state-sponsored child abuse? I can't stand all this unnecessary pain.
Why are we allowing all this state-sponsored child abuse? And when he says that he can't stand all this unnecessary pain, doesn't it resonate with many people who are watching this video? Because I know that there's only a tiny fraction, a minuscule fraction of people that will see this video compared to the people all over the world that can relate to what he says. This state-sponsored child abuse. This abuse that could be eliminated by giving men the ability to show their love to their children. You know, I want to tell you a story about the man I showed you at the beginning of this, my father, who wasn't a perfect man. But one time I was, well, first of all I say, when I was in school, the school that I was in, the playground was off limits for vehicles. You couldn't drive on there. There was another entrance for the teachers who would drive in. And, but, you know, vans and stuff, cars and all that weren't allowed on the playground, the courtyard. And one time I was playing the fool, you know, doing what young kids do, messing about, playing kung fu, pretending to kick somebody. I slipped and I broke my arm. And my dad came speeding onto the playground yard, yeah. And after this, it was kind of like, wow, your dad actually drove on there. And you know, all the kids were like, how could he do that? You know something, I was so proud that he'd broken the rules and got there for me, because he knew that his son had hurt himself. It meant so much to me. I was so proud of him because he broke the rules. You know, he was my hero. And you know, he wasn't around all the time, but he was there for his children, and he was, you know, he was full of father's love. My little girl, I used to throw her into the air, you know, throw her up so high, and she was, well, I'm going to show you this. You know, here's a couple of examples of fathers doing just that. You know, it teaches their children something, it teaches our children something. You know, it teaches the children that they're safe with us, that we can throw them high into the air, but they're still safe. It's a way of preparing them for a world that, you know, mothers and fathers prepare their children for the world, but we do it in different ways. And we gain different kinds of attributes from our mother as opposed to our father. We're supposed to gain some kind of strength, and as I say, I used to throw my little girl and my little boy up, and because my little girl was the first, I remember doing it, and I remember her reactions to it. We'll take a quick look.
Baby, that's what dogs do. Nothing in the world, baby, I wouldn't do for you. If I die right now, you love me as much as I love you. I ain't mean to break your heart, but baby, that's what dogs do. Nothing in the world, baby, I wouldn't do for you.
Do you see the enthusiasm, the excitement and the joy of the children as they are thrown up and then caught by their fathers and protected by their fathers in that moment? I'm going to switch it up a bit now, because again, I'm trying to show you about the love of a father and father's love, and how when you have your father's love, you can, take on a lot of different challenges and things in life. I'm going to go to a boxing match, a fight, because a lot of times in life we have to fight for things that we love. And it's a boxer called Povetkin, Alexander Povetkin. Some people who are boxing fans will know it, some people won't. The point is this: he's in a fight, and his trainer is the legendary trainer Teddy Atlas, and he's actually down in the fight, he's losing the fight. His father had died the year before. His father obviously was very much involved in his training, but obviously he was feeling the loss. My father's been gone a long time now, 11 years, close to 12 years, and I still feel the loss. So let's go in. He's at the point where he's losing the fight. By the way, I've watched this so many times, and it still gets to me. It's still, I don't know, but let's watch.
Where do you have it at right now?
I've got Shagayev up by 2 rounds through 8.
12 minutes. 12 minutes еще. Huh? Now listen to me. You believe in magic? Magic. Sometimes we can bring people that left us back. We can bring your father back tonight. You know why? Because they're going to talk about his son, the new world champion. And when they talk about him, they're going to be thinking about his father.
One of the reasons he's been a little inactive, he was, grieving over the loss of his father.
Good combination, yeah. Povetkin coming alive.
Povetkin's come out with more vigor here in this round 9, with 1 minute left.
Couple good body shots there by Povetkin.
Final seconds of round 9.
Good rebound round for Povetkin.
Saying they're working on getting Povetkin. We're starting to see that here in these last 2 rounds.
Yeah, he's definitely got his second wind. He's looking a lot better. He's throwing some good combinations.
Povetkin throwing some nice combinations along the ropes. Just seems as if Povetkin has discovered something in these last couple of rounds that's given him confidence.
I'll tell you what that is right now, his father. That sparks me up and lights a fire under me. There's that combination that Povetkin needs to be throwing.
Yeah, I think you got to give Teddy Atlas a lot of credit. He pushed that motivational button in those middle rounds, and it seems to have really paid off for Povetkin.
Very important. It seems like Shagayev was wanting to do a certain thing. He wanted to land that left hand, but
Teddy Atlas rushed the center of that ring to get his fighter's arms up.
And if you saw that replay of Teddy, he looked up into heaven, looked at Povetkin and said, that one was for your father.
Neuer Weltmeister aus dem Sauerland-Team. Aus Russland, Alexander Povetkin.
And Povetkin holding the pictures of his dad who recently passed away.
He says that you can make him come back tonight, you know. And when they think about you, they're going to be thinking about your father. And it's powerful, you know, what somebody who has raised you, loved you, can add to your life, can add to your spirit. So let's just take a little moment to see what other people talk about in terms of their father.
We went to downtown Columbia today to find out what your dad means to you on this Father's Day.
So Father's Day I think of as a time to honor our dads who sometimes we take for granted, a special day of appreciation.
My dad means the world to me. I only get to see him a couple times out of a year, but those are the best moments of my year.
I am a father. I am also a son. So I will seize that opportunity to say thank you to my father for being a good father to me, for giving me the foundation for everything I own today.
My dad probably taught me hard work. It's probably like that you have to work for what you get in life, and it doesn't matter what job you have, you just do it to the best of your ability.
Oh, he meant a whole lot to me. He gave me life. I'm 39 years old, but my dad said look out for me when I need help.
I can't even think about where I would be without my dad. He supported me in so many ways in my life, making sure that I had books to read and encouraging me with going to school, and I have my PhD in part because my dad encouraged me to pursue things like that.
I love him very much, and he means the world to me.
Thank you, Papa, for all you've done for me. I will not be where I am today without what you gave me. Thank you, Papa.
Dad, thank you for all the hard work you've done throughout the years, supporting me through school. And
see beautiful, important messages to do with the power of the love of a father, of a man. You know, sometimes people say that we can't show our emotions, men can't show their emotions, and all that seems to be true to a large degree. But it's not about not being able to show emotions, it's about expressing love in the way that you can, you know. Like my father didn't express his love in the obvious ways, but I learned about his childhood and what he didn't have. He didn't have a mother and father in the way that we do, in the way that he was a father to me, and he was passed from one relative to another. And I don't want to go too much into that because, you know, it's hard to think about in a sense. But back to the Povetkin fight, you know, it's beautiful to see how that love transcends space and time, and how the commentator, who was Lennox Lewis, by the way, was saying that it was his father that inspired him to win that fight. Just amazing, powerful. And this is what they're stripping away from the children via the family court and the system at the moment. You know, I've very much tried never to say that the mother of my children is evil. But I think there's something very, very hard to understand about a person that would inflict on another human being what they could never endure, what they could never live through. And I've thought about this a lot because it wasn't me who first kind of articulated that. As I say, it was a brother called Doug from Not a Spot and Blemish Ministries. I think it's hard to understand the mentality of somebody like that who knows about love, or should know about love. But it's not about analysing narcissism, it's about celebrating the love of a father's love. So let's take it back to a man called Jordan Peterson. He's been quite contentious, and he's been in a lot of stuff to do with masculinity, to do with all stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into it. I want to focus on one thing that he's talking about in this. He's talking about the idea of rescuing your father from the belly of the beast and what it means in terms of you, your development, and your ancestral line and so forth. So let's go in.
Me like 30 years to figure out. So there's this old idea, you know, that you have to rescue your father from the belly of the whale, right? From some monster that's deep in the abyss. You see that in Pinocchio, for example, but it's a very common idea. And I figured out why that is, I think. So imagine that we already know from a clinical perspective that, you know, if you set out a path towards a goal, which you want to do because you need a goal and you need a path, because that provides you with positive emotion, right? So you set up something as valuable, so that implies a hierarchy. You set up something as valuable. You decide that you're going to do that instead of other things, so that's kind of a sacrifice, because you're sacrificing everything else to pursue that. And then you experience a fair bit of positive emotion and meaning as you watch yourself move towards the goal. And so the implication of that is the better the goal, the more full and rich your experience is going to be when you pursue it. So that's one of the reasons for developing a vision and for fleshing yourself out philosophically, because you want to aim at the highest goal that you can manage. Okay, so you do that. And then what you'll find is that as you move towards the goal, there are certain things that you have to accomplish that frighten you. You know, maybe you have to learn to be a better speaker, a better writer, a better thinker. You have to be better to people around you, or you have to learn some new skills and you're afraid of that. Whatever, because it's going to stretch you if you pursue a goal. So that'll put you up against challenges. Okay, so all the clinical data indicates, well, the opposite of safe spaces, as Jonathan Haidt has been pointing out, that what you want to do when you identify something that someone is avoiding that they need to do because they're afraid, you have them voluntarily confront it. And so you break it down. What you try to do if you're a behavior therapist is you break down the thing they're avoiding into smaller and smaller pieces until you find a piece that's small enough so they'll do it. And it doesn't really matter as long as they start it, you know, then they can put the next piece on and the next piece. And what happens is they don't get less afraid exactly, they get braver. It's like there's more of them. And then here's why. So imagine you do something new and that's informative, right? There's information in the action, and then you can incorporate that information and turn it into a skill and turn it into a transformation of your perceptions. So there's more to you because you've tried something new. So that's one thing. But the second thing is, and there's good biological evidence for this now, that if you put yourself in a new situation, genes code for new proteins and build new neural structures and new nervous system structures. Same thing happens to some degree when you work out, right? Because your muscles are responding to the load, but your nervous system does that too. So you imagine that there's a lot of potential you locked in your genetic code. And then if you put yourself in a new situation, then the stress, that's the situational stress that's produced by that particular situation, unlocks those genes and then builds new parts of you. And so that's very cool, because who knows how much there is locked inside of you. Okay, so now here's the idea. So let's assume that that scales as you take on heavier and heavier loads. You get more and more informed because you're doing more and more difficult things, but more and more of you gets unlocked. And so then what that would imply is that if you got to the point where you could look at the darkest things, so that would be the abyss, right? That would be the deepest abyss. If you could look at the harshest things, like the most brutal parts of the suffering of the world and the malevolence of people and society, if you could look at that straight and directly, that would turn you on maximally. And so that's the idea of rescuing your father, because imagine that you're like the potential composite of all the ancestral wisdom that's locked inside of you biologically. But that's not going to come out at all unless you stress yourself, unless you challenge yourself. And the bigger the challenge you take on, the more that's going to turn on. And so that as you take on a broader and broader range of challenges and you push yourself harder, then more and more of what you could be turns on, and that's equivalent to transforming yourself into the ancestral father. You're the consequence of all these living beings that have come before you, and that's all part of your biological potentiality. And then if you can push yourself, then all of that clicks on, and that turns you into who you could be. That's the re-representation of that positive ancestral father. So that's why you rescue your father from the belly of the beast. The idea would be that if you can face the malevolence and you can face the suffering, that opens the door to your maximal potential. The optimistic part of that is that although the suffering is great and the malevolence is deep, your capacity to transcend it is stronger. So what you get out of the most negative viewpoint is the most positive possible consequence. Because one of the things you'd like to know, if you wanted to know something deep about yourself, is that you could face the worst that there was and prevail.
So there it is. Powerful stuff. Now please forgive me for some of the imagery that was in this little segment, because I'm not trying to throw triangles out there and this and that. I know some people talk about the imagery and what it means in terms of that. I am not trying to do any of that, but what I am trying to do is focus on the power of what he's saying in this, and how the mythology of rescuing your own father from something is in a sense rescuing yourself. And in a way I'm speaking to my children, because my children are the power ones in this now. I can't rescue them from their abuse, the abuse that has ripped their love, the love that I have for them, out of their lives. But I know this, that I know that they know that I love them, they feel that love, they felt that love, and it's almost like they have to rescue me, rescue my love, if they want it back in their lives. And I'm going to end with a song, because it's a celebration, is it not? It's a celebration, I'm telling you it is. And it's poignant, because the reggae artist that is in this is Yellow Man, who suffered cancer of the face, had to have a lot of his face removed. He suffered. But this song is about father's love, and it's got his daughter in it, and together they put forward this song, they sing this song, and it's powerful because it's almost like she has become the one rescuing him from his pain. But the song shows that he was there from little. So when I was wanting to make this film about father's love, I wanted it to be heartfelt, and I wanted it to be, you know, I wanted to portray the emotion. And I didn't really believe, I wasn't thinking, I didn't know what time I would do it, because I thought, okay, I'm going to have to do it at a time when I am feeling the emotion. But it has been emotional for me to do this. It's been great. It's amazing. So I am going to now end this with this song, while I think about the father's love that I have in me, and how I know that it reaches my children. And I would like to say this to anybody, whether it be their mother, whether it be the courts, whether it be anybody who has used any energy, any of their power or perceived power to stop my love from reaching my children. You're not clever, you're not wise, because you're under the mistaken belief that your negativity and your anger and your judgment and your hate can be stronger than my love for my children. Can't. You've deceived yourself. And in time, that love will do what it's supposed to do, which is to reach my children and to build them up. ELAVI Truth TV.
This is my home. Here we go.
This one is for all the fathers on Father's Day.
No, man. Every day of Father's Day.
Love you, Daddy.
I love you too. Sing it.
From a little as I you, my father showed me that true fathers never run away. Stick up when time gets tough, even when time get rough. I have my father every day. Real loyalty come from royalty. That's the man who raised me. Teach me right from wrong, all grown up real strong. Time for bigger Father's Day. You teach me everything from a little and I grow. You set I make the trend where everybody love and know. Real father, real provider, real role model. Time for me the people them know. Yeah.
When I go to school in a tear up crep, make she get a education and be intellect. I know she a walking on my footsteps.
You know the real fathers, yeah, Father's Day. The real fathers who teach their kids the right way. Fathers, fathers, fathers love. Fathers, fathers, fathers love. Fathers, fathers, Father's Day.
Genuine.
Fathers, fathers, Father's Day.
It's not time to celebrate your love, no hate. You better listen what me daughter say.
We still say big up to mom, what growing up make us strong, but today is Father's Day.
Alright, love your man, respect, joy and happiness. Unity we are say.
Enough love goes out to the fathers about, cause today is Father's Day. From a little as I you, my father showed me that true fathers never